Hello, friends, and welcome back to Tuesday's edition of Living the Question. This is Heather Bren here, uh, bringing some prompts for conversation, some ideas to consider as we move forward with our Pinata project. So let's begin. I'd like to start with the agenda. First, we're going to start with the essential question. And some discussion around how the artist and the Christian are similar or dissimilar. Then we're going to break off into some small group idea discussion where we can refine our ideas. And then finally, I'm going to direct you to some resources so that you can begin your process, planning, and construction. First, I'm going to start out here with this essential question. I'd like you to pause the video at this point and really consider your options A, B, C, and D. What do the artist and Christian have in common? Please pause your video now. And welcome back. I'm curious about your responses. So I'm going to address how the artist and the Christian have common practice, common beliefs, and common responsibilities. Let's begin with practice. First of all, when I say a practice, what am I really talking about? Well, for the Christian, I would say it's the faith practice where we are practicing love, joy, peace, long-suffering, tenderness, goodness, and faith as fruits of our belief. As artists, we also have something called a creative practice. In our creative practice, we are also embodying attributes, ideal attributes, in a similar way that Christians do. In the attributes category, you can see that both the Christian and the artist need consistency in their practice. We know that anything in our life that we want of quality needs to be repeated with consistency. Just like our daily health requires eat and sleep and exercise schedules, so does our faith practice and so does our creative practice. So we need that consistency to cultivate healthy fruit, healthy yield. In both our creative practice and in our faith practice, we are searching truth to bring some sort of understanding to our world. As an artist and as a Christian, I have found that both art and my Christian faith bring a real commonality in the understandings that I am seeking in my pursuit of truth. Also, and I think that this is important to remind us, I believe Jason talked to you, all of you, about how our faith is developmental. And just like our faith is developmental, so is our creative practice. And both are unique and personal. Our faith practice and our creative practice really celebrate our identity and reveal our shortcoming, not in a shame way, but rather in a way that, again, searches for truth and seeks understanding. Very interesting that our creative practice and our faith practice have similar healthy attributes. In the belief category, artists, like Christians, have to believe that love is greater than fear. An artist who's bogged down in fear doesn't perform, doesn't seek action. Instead, the artist needs to embody love in order to be courageous enough to pursue truth and seek real, authentic understanding. the artist and the Christian both require humility. We know that our humanity is flawed, but despite that, we also need to believe that God gave us what we need to be able to accomplish what He's asking us to accomplish. And that can be a commonality in both our faith and in our creative practice. Those are things that I try to align in my own creative practice. But there's still one more category. In this category, we seek to understand how the artist and the Christian are responsible. Well, we know that the Christian faith really begins with self-reflection and an understanding that we are sinners and we are going to miss the mark. Guess what? In creativity, we miss the mark all the time. And that's okay. Missing the mark is part of our human condition. We use our self-reflection to engage also on personal responsibility. What is the responsibility of the Christian and the artist, and where do they overlap? Well, we've already said some of the responsibility is in the seeking for truth and the seeking of understanding. Part of that responsibility that the artist and the Christian share also brings up issues of engagement. How should the Christian be engaged differently from how the artist should be engaged? Well, again, I don't think that these are very different. I think that the artist and the Christian are trying to involve the individual, but I also think they're trying to or the self, excuse me, the individual or the self, but I also think that the artist is trying to engage others in this dialogue of seeking truth and seeking understanding. As a result, as both Christians and artists, our ultimate responsibility is to engage all of these uh, different attributes so that we can be culture formers in the greater world instead of being maybe culture dammers. Let's be culture formers. Let's not damn culture to an eternity without God. Instead, let's show them what it looks like to bring both Christianity and our artist identity together. I found this really interesting Venn diagram that combines the Christian faith, social activism, and art into these common sort of attributes. I wrote down some of these common goals on the side here, and then I have another moment for you to pause and reflect. So, some of the common goals I'd like to recap some of the previous slides, and then also bring to you some of the center information here. It is true that both the artist and the Christian have a call to consistency and discipline. Artists and Christians also create a sense of identity and purpose from their Christian faith and through their creative practice. Artists are able to give voice to the voiceless, to call for unity, to seek a community-focused endeavor, to seek understanding amongst confusion and chaos, to shape culture where culture desperately needs shaping, to become change agents, to become empathy seekers. We're going to talk more about this in just a minute and how this applies to this project. Again, we're seeking truth, love, courage. It takes courage to create, just like it takes courage to be a Christian. Both, ooh, and this one is a good one, both creativity and Christianity have a call to action. Not just a mindset of all of these things, but an embodiment and an active application of hope and faith. Let's pause our video now and consider, how does your piñata project align with the commonalities of both the artist and the Christian? Pause your video now. Welcome back from your journal reflection. I'd now like to just do a quick overview. I only have 4 slides left, so just hang in there with me. Here we go. Practice empathy. Let's just stop for a second and do some defining. The difference between sympathy and empathy, I'm remembering back to my youth of the time that I was blown away with the difference, right? Empathy has a real personal embodiment. I feel your pain. That sort of, not sort of, that really acknowledges the human that is going through the pain and the conditions that human is in, and our ability to place ourselves within that, feeling another's pain as they feel it. Sympathy, however, just acknowledges that someone is in pain and doesn't have the same level of engagement. So we're going to try to embody empathy here. So here are my 3 categories I'd like you to apply empathy toward. I want you to think about the other when you are applying empathy to this project. So, for instance, if your project happens to be about the social justice topic of mental illness, and I'd like you to think about how, if someone who had mental illness was in front of you as you're working and performing this piñata, how would they feel, right? How would the mental health worker now, instead of the patient, how would the mental health worker, counselor, feel? Should you have them in your audience? So I really want you to consider all of the others in the application of your piñata project, so that we can really get a sense of what it means. In some of that empathy practice, I also want you to think about, what does it mean to be your piñata, right? So, for instance, if mental illness is your piñata project and you chose to beat up a pill bottle, so the pill bottle is your element, what does it feel like to be beat up by whatever it is your bat symbolizes? Sometimes we can find within these moments of trying to embody empathy, we can sort of anticipate some of the hiccups or areas of tension that might be raised when we are actually doing our project. Finally, I want you to have empathy for your audience. And when you're considering your audience, consider that your audience doesn't know anything about your topic. How might that feel to someone who is uninformed? Contrary, how might your audience that is very informed respond to your project? And how can you serve both audiences at the same time? See why these are really good considerations for your project? This is what's going to be our litmus test for whether something is too controversial or maybe not inspiring enough. So let's practice empathy as part of our problem solving in this project. Next, let's move on to process planning and construction. So here we go. At this point, I'm going to have you start to look at Instructables.com or YouTube for different videos that will help you make your project. Then you're going to build the skeleton of your piñata. And by skeleton, I just mean like the basic structure of your skeleton. And then I want you to apply at least 1 layer, hopefully 2 layers of paper mache, and also start to engineer how your piñata is going to hang and incorporate some string between the layers of your piñata. Also, this would be a good time to start thinking about how you will fill your piñata. So, for instance, if mental illness is your topic and a pill bottle is your piñata, what's going to come out of your piñata? Would it be more pills? Does that make any sense? What if it was something related to a scientific research? I had a student who actually did this project on mental illness, and he filled his piñata with Chef Boyardee because two reasons. Kind of looked like brains, according to the student, and I guess an open can of, Chef Boyardee kind of does, but also because Chef Boyardee has been known in a scientific study to actually cause some mental illness and cognition problems within younger students. So, this question was really trying to bring diet awareness to his project related to mental illness and ADHD. Kind of a fun way of thinking about the interior of your piñata. What are you bringing awareness to, or what are sort of the results of some of these things? What are other related topics? That's a good way to think about this. So, I provided you with some resources on Instructables or on YouTube, but feel free to do your own search. There's so many ways to tackle a piñata project. It really just is going to be your concept and what you're trying to achieve, and then finding the right resource in order to do that. Again, I provided some yesterday in our chat. So finally, this is just a summary of what we need to be doing today to stay on track so that we can have a piñata party on Friday. Woohoo! So at this point, I'd like you to meet in your small groups to share your concepts with one another. Discuss impressions, your first impression of someone else's project, and maybe offer some alternative solutions of symbols. Should a symbol be maybe too aggressive or too passive? Next, I want you to do some process and planning, gather some resources on the interweb, then make a plan like gathering materials. Where are you going to be building? Do some space planning, and then also make a plan where you think you might host this piñata busting open. So start making plans and intentions. Gather your materials. And then finally, we're going to start our construction and get messy. Again, start that skeleton today. Try to get a couple layers in. Dry your piñatas in the sunshine if at all possible. It'll go a lot faster, flipping it around from side to side. And I'm reminding you again about suspending your piñata. Start that engineering at this stage of the project. And then finally, have fun today, you guys. Oh my goodness. Have fun in conversation with each other. Be gracious with each other. And be honest with each other, right? You guys are not only making your own project, you're also helping to mediate the message of your peers. So let's seek some understanding in the purpose of trying to find some truth, God's truth. Let's do this. You ready? All right. Go team. I'll get back to you on Thursday. Until then, be well.